"You came in with 2 suitcases and a job cooking eggs," Ethan told his wife. "So that is what you are leaving with." But Grace did not know yet was that every dollar he owned was already in his brother's name. 11 months later, Ethan would be on the customer side of a diner counter, waiting on a woman with a coffee can. 19 years earlier, the first truck of coal contracting was paid for out of that same can. Grace was 26 then, working doubles at Ruby's on Route 9 and keeping her tips under the sink. $1,100 in ones and fives, bought a used pickup with a bad clutch and a good bed. And Ethan told that story every Christmas for 6 years, until the year he stopped telling it.
By the night, he slid those papers across the counter. There were 40 trucks and a yard on Miller Road.
Grace still worked breakfast 6 mornings a week because she liked the people, and the people liked her. Ethan explained her job to clients the way you explain a relative you would rather not discuss. But their daughter Lily was 9, and she thought the diner smell in her mother's hair was the best smell there was. On the shelf above the coffee machine sat that tin can, a rubber band around it, soft at the corners. Grace kept things in it, receipts and buttons and a school photo, the way some people keep a drawer. Ethan had stopped seeing it somewhere around the 4th truck. He had already been to a lawyer, and he had already been to his brother. 6 weeks before that night, Ethan sat in the back booth at Ruby's with a folder and a coffee. He did his paperwork there, because the coffee was free for family, and nobody from the yard ever came in. Marcus arrived still in his work boots, because Marcus was always still in his work boots. Ethan slid the first page across the table and called it a formality for the bank. Marcus read 3 lines and asked why his name was on a building he had never been inside. Ethan said a court was about to take half of 19 years from him for the crime of getting married. He said he built this with his own back at 4 in the morning, while everyone else slept. He said Grace cooked eggs, and cooking eggs does not make a person a partner. Marcus asked what happens afterward, and Ethan said it comes straight back the day the papers clear. Then he said the thing his brother would remember for the rest of his life. Paper does not care who did the work, Ethan said. It only cares whose name is on it. Marcus signed 9 pages in a diner booth while his sister-in-law refilled his cup. Then he asked for something in writing because he was not stupid, only young. There was no clean paper left in the folder, so Ethan tore a sheet off Grace's order pad. 11 lines, both names, both signatures, and the date in blue ink on a green slip. Marcus folded it into his shirt pocket, and Ethan wrote himself a second copy. He read it twice, did not like how it looked in his own handwriting, and crumpled it. He dropped it beside his saucer and told Grace to throw that out. Grace cleared the table and carried the cup and the paper back behind the counter. She smoothed the page flat with the side of her hand, the way she did with every receipt. Then she folded it once and put it in the coffee can, because that is what the can was for. Ethan watched her drop the cup in the sinks and never once looked at her other hand. The divorce took 4 months, and Ethan sat through all of it in the same gray suit. He answered every question with the patience of a man who had done his homework. The company had a bad year, he said. Nothing in it but debt and equipment. The construction side belonged to his brother now, he said, and had for some time. His wife never put $1 into that business, he said. Not one, not ever. Grace sat 11 feet away and heard him say it in a room where lying is a crime. And she did not raise her voice, because raising her voice had never once worked in 19 years. Her lawyer asked for records and got 9 boxes of maintenance invoices for trucks that were not his anymore. The judge saw a leased car, a rented apartment, and no assets, and divided what was there. Grace got a used Corolla, $11,000, and a 9-year-old with a lot of questions. I hold no interest in coal contracting, direct or indirect, Ethan swore, and initialed the line beneath it. Outside the courthouse, he stood in the sun for a minute and let himself feel it. He had kept every dollar, and it had cost him a Corolla. He gave it 2 weeks to be careful, because being careful was the whole point. Then he called Marcus. Marcus did not pick up on Tuesday, and he did not pick up on Wednesday either. Thursday, he answered. Said he was on a roof in Fairview and would call back. He called 9 days later and asked Ethan to come out to the yard. Ethan found his brother standing in the office he used to sit in himself. There was a new chair behind the desk and a jacket over the back of it. Marcus said he had been thinking about it, and Ethan told him not to think, just to sign. Instead, his brother asked how many years he had been carried on the payroll as an apprentice. The answer was 11, at apprentice wages, on a crew he had been running alone since he was 22. Ethan said that was different, and Marcus said it was the same thing in a different shirt. Then he said it flat, without heat, the way you repeat a lesson you were taught properly. Paper does not care who did the work, he said. It only cares whose name is on it. Ethan told him he would take it apart in court and leave him with nothing. Marcus said he could try, and walked him to the door. Bring the letter, he said, and held it open until his brother was through it. Ethan drove 20 minutes with both hands on the wheel before he understood what he had been told. The letter was 11 lines on a green order slip, and there had only ever been 2 copies. Marcus had one folded in a shirt pocket, and Marcus was not going to produce it. The other one Ethan had crumpled and dropped on a table because he did not like how it looked. He tore his office apart that night, hunting for a page he had personally thrown away. His lawyer explained the shape of it the next morning, slowly, twice. To prove the company was his, he would have to prove he had hidden it from a court. To get his money back, he would have to stand up and say that everything he swore was a lie. He asked what that cost, and she said perjury, fraud, and his contractor's license. Ethan thought about it for 6 days. On the 7th, he called his mother and asked her to put a dinner together. Diane cooked for 9, because that is what she did when both her sons were coming. He waited until the plates were down, then asked Marcus in front of everyone to give back what was his. Marcus set his fork down and took a folded set of deeds out of his jacket. He passed them around the table so everyone could read the name at the bottom of every page. Every signature on them was Ethan's, and everyone at that table knew his handwriting. Diane looked at her older son a long time and asked him what he had done. It is a tax structure, he said, and his mother put the pages down and went to check the oven. Nobody asked for dessert. Grace moved into 2 rooms above a laundromat and taped Lily's drawings to the refrigerator. She took the $11,000 and did not spend a cent of it for 4 months. Ruby's went up for sale in March because Ruby's nephew wanted the land and not the diner. Grace bought the grill, the 12 stools, and the lease, and had nothing left for the roof. A man named Walter patched the roof for a plate of meatloaf and a slice of pie. Walter had run crews for coal contracting for 22 years, before Ethan cut him loose to save a salary. He brought 2 men with him, and both of them had worked for Ethan too. They rewired the kitchen on a Sunday, and would not take $1 for it. Grace fed them for 3 years after that, and never once wrote it on a ticket. The first thing she carried in on opening day was the coffee can. She set it on the shelf above the machine and slid the rubber band off. Inside were $400 in old tips, a school photo, a button, and a folded green slip. She had read it once, the night she took it out of the bin, and never mentioned it to anyone. She was not saving it for anything, and she was not going to throw it out either. The can went back on the shelf, and Grace opened at 5:30 the next morning. Ethan filed against his brother in October, and the hearing landed on a Thursday in February. He came in with 3 boxes, a lawyer, and the certainty of a man holding the truth. The gallery had his mother in it, and Walter, and 6 men who used to wear his name on their shirts. Marcus's lawyer began by reading Ethan's own sworn affidavit out loud, line by line. "I hold no interest in coal contracting, direct or indirect," she read, and asked whether that was true. Ethan said it was not, and the room made a small sound and then stopped making it. She put up the transfers next, 7 of them, all moved inside 6 weeks. The last one cleared 11 days before he filed for divorce, and she read that date twice. She asked about the bad year, with nothing in it but debt and equipment. Ethan looked at the number on the screen behind him and did not answer. His own lawyer stood and said the transfers were never a gift, only a shelter. The judge asked her to say that part again, and she said it again. And so Ethan tried the last card he had, and it was a bad one. Marcus had run that side of the business for years, he said, and had taken advantage of a family arrangement. And Marcus's lawyer called Walter, who had made payroll for 22 years and kept every book. Said Marcus was carried as an apprentice at apprentice wages until the day of the transfers. Then he said one more thing, because nobody had told him not to. And he said the first truck was bought with $1,100 of tip money out of Grace's coffee can. Diane stood up in the 3rd row, put her coat over her arm, and walked out the back. The men in work shirts watched her go, then looked at Ethan, and one by one stopped looking. The judge let the room settle, and then asked the only question that was left. "Is there anything in writing where your brother agreed to hand this property back to you?" But Ethan said there was. The judge asked him where it was. The bell over the door at Ruby's went off at 4 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. Grace knew the sound of his shoes on the tile before she looked up. Ethan had lost weight, and his suit had gotten too big somewhere in the last 11 months. He took the second stool, the one he always used to take, and put his hands flat on the counter. Grace poured him a coffee without asking, because that is what she did for anyone who sat down. He called her Gracie, and it was the first time in about 4 years. "What can I get you, Mr. Cole?" she said. He took a single sheet out of his jacket and slid it across the counter to her. It was a statement, typed by his lawyer, saying she had watched him write a letter on a green slip. He needed her signature on it, and her voice saying so in a courtroom in 9 days. Grace read it twice, the way she read everything, and set it down between them. He started talking fast then, about Lily, about the years, about how none of it was aimed at her. Grace asked him what he thought a used Corolla and $11,000 was. He did not have an answer, so he asked whether she remembered the letter at all. Grace turned, reached up to the shelf above the machine, and took the coffee can down. Ethan watched the rubber band come off, and he knew what was inside before she had it open. She took out a green order slip, soft at the folds, and laid it on the counter facing him. 11 lines in blue ink, both names, both signatures, and the date he had written himself. He reached for it, and she put 2 fingers on the corner, not hard, and he stopped. "That copy is yours to look at," she said. "Mine went to my lawyer in December." Hiding money from a divorce court is its own crime, she told him. And a settlement can be reopened. He asked how long she had known, and Grace said since the night he told her to throw it out. He asked why she never used it, and she said she had been waiting to see whether he would give it back himself. Then she refilled his cup to the same line she filled everyone's and went to scrape the grill. The ruling came down on the last Thursday in March and took 11 minutes to read. The court found that the transfers were a sham, exactly as Ethan had said they were. Then it refused to hand him back a single dollar of it. A court will not lend its arm to a man enforcing a lie he told that same court. And Marcus kept the yard, the 40 trucks, the 2 rentals, and the name on the doors. 9 weeks later, in a different courtroom, Grace's settlement was reopened on a green order slip. Hidden marital property came back to the marriage, and half of everything that came back was hers. Ethan's contractor's license was pulled in June, and the perjury referral went out the same week. He served 4 months and came out to a rented room above a hardware store on Route 9. In September, he took work with a framing crew out of Fairview for $17 an hour. His 3rd week, the crew was sent to re-roof a building on Miller Road that he used to own. Marcus came out with coffee for the men and handed him a cup the way he handed everybody a cup. Ethan sat on the tailgate with it and finally did the arithmetic he had been avoiding for a year. Nobody took anything from me, he thought. I signed every page myself and taught him how to hold it. He had needed one person alive who would keep a promise with nothing behind it but blood. And he had walked straight past the only person who ever kept anything. Lily is 10 now, and she does her homework at the end of the counter after school. She stopped asking about her father in the spring, and Grace does not bring him up. Diane calls Marcus on Sundays and calls Ethan on his birthday, and that is the arrangement now. There is a tin can on the shelf above the coffee machine at Ruby's, with a rubber band around it. Ethan walked past it 6 mornings a week for 19 years and never once thought it was worth taking. He wrote everything down, and the one page that could have saved him was the page he told her to throw away. If you believe a debt like that always finds its way back, subscribe to Karma Tales. The next story opens with a woman signing something she did not read, and you will see it coming about a minute too late.